Donald Trump has just completed his address to the United States and actually the world, because this conflict is involved in the whole entire world. Guys, in today's video, I'm going to give you a breaking update about exactly what Trump has said. Why is now the oil price spiking really hard? So you can see this is shooting up literally minutes. The markets are digesting this information. The oil price, unfortunately, even if we go to, like, say, the 15-minute candles, or even like the 1-minute candles, guys, it is going up. It is shooting up. So we're going to break down exactly why this is. What else am I going to tell you? I'm going to tell you exactly where I think this war is headed next. To be honest, it's bad. It's getting worse. So we'll talk about all of that in today's video. I'll give you some insights from Peter Schiff as well. We also had an announcement out of Anthony Albanese. He's got a blockbuster strategy to reveal about the fuel crisis. We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about what the Iranians are actually saying from their side. And again, it's just, unfortunately, I have to say, it's not a great video to make today. But, it is what it is. And we have to, update you guys and keep you in the loop, because obviously this is critical to you if you're in the US, but it's also critical to you if you're in the whole world right now, because people are thinking, oh no, what is going to happen to the Strait of Hormuz? Because this thing, unfortunately, might be, it's going to get worse, I think. Now, having said that, let's get straight into the video. So the big news is this speech. Now, I want to just play the most important section of the speech. So the second half towards the end was the important stuff. I'll play you the important stuff. You can take it all in for yourself, and then I'll break down exactly what this means in terms of escalation and also, the financial markets as well, because again, it's not good. Let's listen in and let's play this.
We're going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. In the meantime, discussions are ongoing. Regime change was not our goal. We never said regime change, but regime change has occurred because of all of their original leaders' death. They're all dead. The new group is less radical and much more reasonable. Yet if during this period of time no deal is made, we have our eyes on key targets. If there is no deal, we are going to hit each and every one of their electric generating plants very hard and probably simultaneously. We have not hit their oil, even though that's the easiest target of all, because it would not give them even a small chance of survival or rebuilding. But we could hit it, and it would be gone, and there's not a thing they could do about it. They have no anti-aircraft equipment. Their radar is 100% annihilated. We are unstoppable as a military force. The nuclear sites that we obliterated with the B-2 bombers have been hit so hard that it would take months to get near the nuclear dust, and we have it under intense satellite surveillance and control. If we see them make a move, even a move for it, we'll hit them with missiles very hard again. We have all the cards, they have none. It's very important that we keep this conflict in perspective. American involvement in World War I lasted 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days. World War II lasted for 3 years, 8 months, and 25 days. The Korean War lasted for 3 years, 1 month, and 2 days. The Vietnam War lasted for 19 years, 5 months, and 29 days. Iraq went on for 8 years, 8 months, and 28 days. We are in this military operation, so powerful, so brilliant, against one of the most powerful countries for 32 days. And the country has been eviscerated and essentially is really no longer a threat. They were the bully of the Middle East, but they're the bully no longer. This is a true investment in your children and your grandchildren's future. The whole world is watching, and they can't leave the power, strength, and brilliance. They just can't believe what they're seeing. They leave it to your imagination, but they can't believe what they're seeing, the brilliance of the United States military.
So that is a pretty bad speech in terms of where we go next with this. So I want you to understand that Trump is escalating this once again. So one of the things we've seen between the Iranians and the US is just escalation after escalation after escalation. And unfortunately, the whole world is going to bear the brunt of this conflict. So again, if you're tuning in from outside of the US, or if you're watching from the US, again, this is not good, because what we are seeing is a protracted, long war of escalations. Trump is threatening to send Iran back to the Stone Age. He is threatening to send the electricity plants, just destroy the whole electricity within the region. He is threatening to, destroy the oil as well. And he's going to continue the conflict. So the war is still back on. There was hope that this would be a speech in which, it would be de-escalated. He'd call it a day. But it doesn't seem to be the case. And the financial markets are processing that information very, very quickly. So you're up to about $103. And it does seem likely that all military options are back on the table. So we'll talk about some of that soon. But it does seem like there are no negotiations. You can actually see some breaking intelligence right here. US intelligence has determined the Iranian government is not currently willing to engage in substantial negotiations over ending the US-Israeli war. We'll break down exactly what the Iranians are saying soon, but I have to say, the speech right here, it's an extension. It's a longer war. We're not seeing this de-escalation that we were hoping for. We're not seeing for, both sides to kind of come to the table right here. And it seems like this thing is just going to continue. So there's going to be more missiles every day. And it's going to continue until, this thing doesn't continue anymore. And, it's really anyone's guess how long this continues for. But I have to say, every day, as we've been discussing right here on this channel, this thing goes on. It is like a doomsday weapon for the world economy. And you're going to see the impacts of that. I mean, we're already starting to see the impacts of that currently in some countries out there, but I think it will even get worse. So remember, this is now going for a long, long period of time. And, if this goes for another 4 weeks, this is where things, countries start to run out of fuel. Things get very, very bad. And it's just something you have to prepare for right now. So oil, just in the short term, going up. Financial markets probably won't like that. They're not liking that. You can actually see the S&P 500 drop. Futures down 0.7%. Many stock markets around the world today will be losing value based off that. And again, you're staring down the barrel of potentially, this very, very bad global recession from this conflict, all right? So that is a major update. What we also saw out of some other key leaders that are going to add fuel to the fire, before we talk about what the Iranians really want, is we did see some speeches from Keir Starmer. So Keir Starmer came out with a big speech, and he's talking about, talking to other countries about opening up the Strait of Hormuz. And again, this is indicating that, maybe there's a chance that there is this, global kind of string of countries that are going to come together and they're going to just try and do war against Iran. That's kind of what it's kind of sounding like at the moment. But we do have an update from Anthony Albanese, and he's got a master plan for Australia. Let's just listen into this.
And over coming weeks, if you can switch to catching the train or bus or tram to work, do so. That builds our reserves.
So there you go, Australians, you're going to be using public transport, and why not just reintroduce donkeys and horses too? But Australia is a funny country because it's such a resource-rich country, but the leaders, every single generation has just run this country into the ground, and it's not even self-sufficient anymore. So once upon a time, this wouldn't have been an issue because there was refineries in Australia. This wouldn't actually be an issue, but with the current governments here, it's getting worse and worse and worse, and Australia might run out of fuel. So there you go. And what we are seeing though, so let's just jump straight over to what the Iranians have said. Now, they have actually come out with a big letter. This has kind of been suppressed in the mainstream news, but I think it's important to understand exactly what they're saying, exactly what their point of view is, because you don't always have to go through a filter. You don't have to just go through some, whatever it is to get your news. You can actually read directly from the source. So should you wish, you can actually pause the video and read some of this, but I'll read out some of it as well, some of the highlights. Obviously, it's a long letter, but it's about 4 pages long. But they basically, they say the case how they're not a threat. They don't want war against America, and they talk about kind of the attacks against the industry, against Iran, some of the things that have happened during this war, such as the destruction of cancer treatment pharmaceutical facilities, or boasting about bombing a country back to the Stone Ages. I mean, Trump even said that again, just literally moments ago, about sending it back to the Stone Ages, and attacks on the infrastructure of Iran. And that's literally kind of what's happening. So at the moment, you've got like multiple weeks of attacks against the Iranian infrastructure, which is, Trump has just announced that's exactly what he's going to do. So energy facilities, things like that. One important thing I am seeing out of different sides of the media at the moment is Trump is talking about a ceasefire. So we see things about ceasefire, but Iran actually wants a complete end to the war. So they don't want to see a repeat of this war ever again. So there is no real intent for a ceasefire. And, you've got the Iranian FM right here, and he's saying, Trump must change his approach. So what we are seeing is we are seeing continuation of threats. We are seeing continuations of escalations, right? And the Iranians are saying, we don't really do threats. We don't do that type of stuff. So we want to get a resolution. And again, this is just going to amplify everything. So the fuel crisis is going to get worse. It's going to go up. It's going to get terrible, to be honest with you. And you can actually see in the background right here, this is valuable intelligence. So according to the New York Times, citing 2 Pentagon officials, the U.S. plans to increase the amount of A-10 Warthog ground attack aircraft deployed to the Middle East. So that's going to increase it to 18 additional aircraft right there. So again, we're seeing actually more troops move in. So remember those troops that got sent to the Middle East? They're still there. More ships are moving in. More planes are moving in. So the actual military hardware is actually getting bigger and bigger. And again, this could be the prelude of not only, attacks against Iran, but also, there could potentially be some type of Strait of Hormuz operation, which again, most likely with these governments, many governments out there will give you a time frame of, say, this is only going to last a couple of days or a couple of weeks. You might see a blowout right here. And Trump was kind of hinting at that because he was talking about just how long some of the previous conflicts were. And he was kind of saying it in a good way. And I don't know why he was saying it as a good way. It's like, you don't really want wars to kind of drag on forever. And many of those wars, again, the US lost. So strange kind of highlights from Trump, but I think it's more of an implied, threat. That's the way I saw it. It's like, we can outlast you. That's the way I kind of read Trump's words right there. Now, if we have a look at what Peter Schiff is saying gold is up another $100 today, with gold stocks already adding 5% to yesterday's 7% surge. It's not because the war is over, but because investors are realizing that regardless of what Trump says or how the war progresses, it will accelerate the move out of dollars into gold. Now, let's have a look at the gold price live as it kind of reacts to this. You can see right here, wow, S&P 500 now heading towards negative 1% for the futures. Gold is actually, what is it doing today? It's losing some value. Okay, so look at that. That's a sell-off on gold, and this is this effect we've been seeing on the channel. So remember, guys, we've been studying this very, very closely every day, and I call this the let's just make up a term for it. It's called the double spooky effect. All right. So generally, what we have seen, which has been good, in a relatively, say, spooky economy where there is, a general amount of fear, there's a general amount of inflation. And things are, you can see kind of the Titanic sinking slowly. Gold actually rises. It's been rising off some of that news. But what we are seeing is the double spooky. It's where investors get so scared, they start to liquidate everything and they actually go back into US dollars. But we know, look, I know anyway, this is my own independent view, US dollars over the long term, it sucks. So does Australian dollars and so does any other type of fiat currency. And it's because the actual design behind the currency, it's infinite mint. Politicians print it out infinitely. How is that a good place to hold your net worth? It really isn't. Now, having said that right there about gold, what is silver doing? Let's check out silver. Again, there'll be a sell-off in silver. You can see it come in right there, the sell-off happening for silver. Brent, all eyes will be on oil, guys. So oil, what's going to happen next? And unfortunately, we kind of have this kind of worst case scenario happening in the background. And what I mean by this is a prolonged, extended conflict, which we really, we don't want this. I mean, either option, either like a US withdrawal from the region would have been very bullish, I would say, for the economy and also for US, geopolitical strategy. I think that would actually be good because it's an opportunity to reset priorities. But we have kind of this worst case scenario where it's just extending indefinitely and there's no clear time window on when this thing is actually going to wrap up. And Peter Schiff has also said right here, based off Trump's latest post, here's the victory some Americans died for, and the rest of us will pay for with debt and inflation. The regime stays in power, grows even more hardline. Iranians hate America even more, and oil prices stay permanently higher. Other than that, we win. So a bit of sarcasm in there. And someone has said, you voted for him and used your platform to promote him, own it. And he says Kamala may have been worse. But I also want to say, look, in politics, when you're going into looking at economic leaders and political leaders, guys, you're allowed to change your opinions, okay? You can trust someone. So if someone says something good, like Trump saying some good things before he gets elected, it's okay to kind of believe what he's going to tell you. Leaders, if their actions change, it's the same thing as listening to a CEO. So if a CEO says something and then he performs well, you support the CEO because he's performing well. But if the CEO starts to perform poorly, you can change your opinion and you can say, this person is not performing well anymore, and you can give honest feedback. And there's no shame in saying, being a Trump believer and then changing your opinion, all right? So many people have done that, and I think there's no issue with that as long as you're kind of understanding the big picture. But the big picture right now is this is obviously not good. So that is what Peter Schiff is saying, and we're just going to have to see. Look, unfortunately, the storm grows stronger. It's getting worse today, and it might be a good time to just assess. You can run it through AI. I've been doing this myself. What happens if the Strait of Hormuz closes and for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, what's the actual impact on your own country? So wherever you're tuning in from, just have an assessment of that. It might help you. That's what I've been doing. And, have a plan around that as well. Because again, Albanese, his master plan is for us to catch public transport. So again, this is it's going to be interesting the next few weeks, to say the absolute least. But that is today's critical update, coming out to you fresh, fast. And guys, appreciate you tuning in. Storm grows stronger, and let's just see where this all plays out.